Welcome to Riding the Trauma Train, or welcome back if we've shared this space before. I'm Lydia, your host and fellow passenger in this journey of self-healing, inner strength and personal growth. This podcast is a safe, judgment-free space dedicated to the realities of living with and healing from trauma. Through personal stories and in-depth conversations with special guests, including therapists, healers, practitioners, and fellow survivors, we look at what healing can truly look like in everyday life. We explore realistic healing journeys and share simple, sustainable practices and actionable tools to support your well-being along the way. So grab your ticket, take a seat, and remember you are not on this journey alone. Welcome back to Riding the Trauma Train. I'm Lydia, your host and fellow passenger on this journey towards self-healing, inner strength, and personal growth. This podcast is a judgment-free space where we explore trauma, healing, and many forms of self-empowerment. Today, we have the amazing Jana, the founder of Recovery Trauma Limited. Jana has built one of the UK's fastest growing trauma platforms, one that blends therapies with creative modalities, music, mindfulness, movement. Her mission is simple but powerful: to make trauma recovery accessible and affordable to anybody who needs it, anywhere in the world. So grab your ticket, take a seat, and remember you do not have to travel this journey alone. Jana, welcome to Riding the Trauma Train. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for being here.
Thank you.
So it's amazing. So I found your Instagram page and was just blown away by the content that is on there. The first question to you is going to be, how did recovery trauma come about? Tell me about your healing journey and what inspired you to create this amazing platform.
Yeah. So I'm originally from Germany. I live now about 13 years in UK, and so I had like not a good childhood. So I highlighted a lot of on the Instagram platform. I developed complex trauma, and I lost my mother on Christmas, and it was 1996. Very traumatic. Little bit trigger warning. She got murdered, and I grew up with a very like narcissistic father. So it was quite difficult for me, like my childhood. It was so severe, complex trauma. What I endured was long time. I could not talk about this, especially with my dad as well. So I try now to be very carefully, like on the platform, like to explore those things. Meanwhile, of course, I've got like a lot of compassion towards to this, because people, like also endured trauma as well. So it's on my healing journey. 3 years ago, I developed very, very hard PTSD. So it was related also to a breakup what I had there. So everything around, because it was before Christmas, I could not go anymore out. When I went out and I had to go for shopping or anything like this, I started immediately crying. When I went on Christmas parties, I just could maybe sit there for 10 minutes, and then, like I started to shake and everything. My whole nervous system broke down. And then when I said, okay, like you are now in a very bad stage in your life, I went on internet platforms, like the biggest platform, like for example, BetterHelp. And I went there and was seeking therapy online, because it takes a long time to get therapists in UK, like about 14 weeks we speak about this. And so I went on this platform, but I was missing something for trauma. We were just talking and like this. And then I thought like, that's not enough, like when I saw they only had like all PowerPoint presentation, but trauma is more, like we talk about this then later. And I could not find that. And then I said, okay, now I will create something, like where, like where I can also help other people as well. So I created then this platform.
That's amazing. Firstly, I'm so sorry for your loss. I know you said it happened a long time ago, but that is very, very important to say to you. And I'm sure there are so many people that can relate to having a narcissistic parent. They may not relate to obviously what happened to your mum, but I think there are probably lots and lots of people that can relate to having a narcissistic parent. So thank you for sharing that with us. That's I know that's a really, really big thing. So yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. You've spoken about obviously you've been through many different types of trauma, and that how does did those experience kind of influence the way you approach your healing journey now?
Well, I think for me, I think for everyone who is traumatized, the first thing is you need to understand, like that you have been traumatized. And I think a lot of people interact daily. For example, like they're shouting or anything like this. They shut down, isolate. They don't know, like it's because of trauma, what they endured. And I think that's the first step where I was thinking, like there's a lot of things repeated, also like the abusive relationships what I had in my life. And, like, and I think rather than to concentrate a lot of on the other person, a lot of people like Google, what is narcissism and like this, try to understand that. I mean, that's the one thing. But I think the other thing is also take the accountability for yourself, for your healing journey. I think that's very important, and then see what are the steps what you can take to improve your life, to, like not trauma bonds and like this, and also this generational, like trauma as well.
Yeah, I think the repeated patterns is quite a big thing, isn't it, within somebody that's suffered with some kind of trauma. The cycles of those patterns are definitely something that is relatable, and also kind of almost self-destructive in a way that you don't understand that's going on. Was there a specific moment when you realized you wanted to transform your pain into something that could help others?
Yeah, I think when I want to end my life with this, because talking therapy did not work anymore. And every year I have the same, like issue with the PTSD. And every year, I don't know, a lot of people will not understand that, but for me, I have got every year the same pain, like before Christmas. And it's not just starts on the day. It's weeks and weeks before Christmas, because you can see other people happy and like this. You listen to the music, and it's not just one day where I'm getting reminded. I'm getting reminded many days before. And also to understand, like why I'm like this, because also with the complex trauma, and I think I highlighted this yesterday in other, like posts, we have got massive mood swings, like in the start of the day, you feel okay-ish, lunchtime, very happy, and then afternoon, you want to commit suicide. That's some shifts, like, I mean, with the bipolar, they have got that per weeks, but with the complex trauma, it's very exhausting to live like this. And for me, like,
Mhm.
I tried then a lot of things out, like yoga, for example, like sound baths and all these things. And I thought, wow, this helps me. And I think a big thing was also like music as well. And this helped me so much there, like where I was thinking, if I can, like help also other people, this will also help me on my healing journey, And I think with trauma, we are very far behind with everything. I can see a lot of people like big educator, but I think with recovery trauma, it will be unique, because I will not talk like the therapist or something like this. I want to explore the inner parts. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's why I also maybe just can add one thing more. I do a lot of visual tests, because there's a lot of things in our unconscious, like you have to bring up, and you just can't bring that up just in a normal way. If you just talk with them, what is a freeze response? If you never, like sometimes you need to explore, like which part is at the moment active.
Yeah. That's good. I've never heard of visual kind of tools. That's and it does make sense because we even like I did an episode with a lady called Hannah, and her technique, the grounding session at the end, was to move her eyes, and it was the eyes that were kind of regulating the nervous system. So actually, having a visual test to know what kind of your body is reacting like is a really good tool.
The visual tests, maybe I just want to add one thing. The visual tests, it's not for the body response, it's more for the inner child parts, because there are parts in you, they are
Okay.
frozen. So you bring them up with the visual test. I just want to add that.
Okay, that's really interesting. So, so you get the visual test, and it tells you kind of what your inner child would have thought or is thinking, or
Feeling.
is that the concept of it?
Well, I think the trauma is everything about that your emotions are not regulated. For, a lot of people suppress the emotions like sadness, anger, and everything. And your inner child parts, they are like numb, frozen, not there anymore. But if you show them, for example, some visuals, then they can come up there and can say, okay, how I feel at the moment. And that's the principle of the visual tests.
The birth of Recovery Trauma Limited, you've put on your Instagram page the world's largest and most accessible platform for trauma recovery. That is a beautiful, beautiful goal. And it's one that I am very happy to be alongside with you, pushing you along. What does accessible mean to you?
Yeah, I think accessible means it's online, so everyone has got access. People from India can, like explore the website, and from the US side. And, like, of course, there are some challenges there because therapy around the world is a little bit different. So I will have got like addiction, like where you can search for the therapists around the world if you want to talk with them. But I
Hmm.
think the main concept will be the courses. So one week we have got DBT, like dialectical behavior therapy. The next week we have got music therapy. So because healing is for everyone different, and I want that people can explore what helps them most. And so I think recovery trauma is different comparing to other, like platforms. Other platforms maybe just have like music therapy and just have art, but I want to combine that all together. So that's my goal. And there's no platform in whole the world who has got this all elements. And I think that's very important also for my healing journey. There's a lot of things you need to explore, like what is good for you. And for me, what is also important as well, I want to be different than other people. I don't want to overcharge that. Like when I went on this big platform, what I mentioned before, I had to pay about 200 per month. And I don't think a lot of people can afford that. So with these different courses and like so
Yeah.
on, there's something, like where you can, like provide something to people in an affordable way. And, like for me, the main goal is really to cut down the suicide rates as well, which are highly related with trauma.
Yeah. That is a really admirable, I can't even say the word. A really admirable aspect of this is that the accessibility is for people to be able to not only afford it, but to have physical to access to it. So I know physical might not be in person, but it might be via the website or via the online content. I'll say online content because that's easier than website because it's all being done. But I know that like the resources that are on there that will people will benefit from. Um, like you say, your platform is so, I think eclectic is the word. It's got so many different aspects to it. If you are somebody that if one thing doesn't work for you, you can still go back onto the same place. You don't have to go and research again. You can go back to the same place and find another type of therapy that you think might help you the next time. With obviously there's so many different time zones and things like that. By having it on the website, I'm guessing, can people how do they gain access to that being in different time zones?
Yeah, I think there will be also like a link, like where, like things are recorded, and live sessions as well. I think what I also want to do as well, I want to do collective healing. So like group sessions, something like this. There's a lot of challenges there because, like one person can drag down like a group and everything. So you need to have like a moderator for the group, and like, and trauma is a quite sensitive topic as well, like, and with the privacy. So there's a lot of challenges at the moment. I'm working on this, but I think, like also to do different, like times for the live sessions and, like not just to say, okay, we are now in
Yeah.
UK, it's 10 o'clock and, like also to change the times there and then to record, of course, sessions.
Yeah, that is a good point. And also, I suppose if they've got access to kind of written material, that makes no difference to any time zone. They'll be able to read through that.
Yeah, so I'm working at the moment. That's a good point. I'm working at the moment on journals and, like on workbooks for trauma, and you can also get it on Instagram. I'm working with our therapist at the moment on trauma kits as well. So healing kits for
Yeah,
anxiety, for self-harm, anything like this. I think that's a good, like step forward for the healing for other people.
yeah. One of the powerful things I think about the mission is the affordability. I think
Mm,
um, I know we're both in the UK, but in the UK, I know you said about, you mentioned £200 a month for one of your online group sessions, but there's also, if you want something free, like for me, I found when I was looking for some specialist therapy, um, I was waiting 18 months
mm,
and nothing. And obviously, so that's why I then went down the route of alternative healing. But it doesn't change the fact that when I spoke to people and I said it was 18 months, they were like, "Oh my gosh, that's horrendous," blah blah blah. And I said, "Well, it does seem horrendous, but that means that there's 18 months worth of people needing that therapy. So if there's 18 months of people needing that therapy, it means that there is the need and the necessity to have other things." So I think Recovery Trauma Limited is one of those, it's going to be one of those assets that people can access because that's what we need. We need the accessibility,
mm.
like we just said. So, is there a way that that when people are coming through and being I was going to say being therapized, but that's not even a word, going through their different healing journeys,
Mm.
do you measure their healing or their recovery through the platform, or is that something that you'd get by feedback?
Yeah, I think that's a big point as well. And I think what I want to introduce, so checkpoints, like where, like you go with them through the healing journey there and see, like where they are in their life. And I think also like in Instagram, like with my posts, I can see a lot of feedbacks from people, like thank you for helping us and like this, like to bring us a little bit in the direction. I think it's all about awareness. As soon like you are on this, like, and you have got some support, like your healing starts there. And also what I want to say as well, healing is not linear. Like a lot of people, like also said like, oh yeah, Jana, like you can go now to Germany this year for Christmas and everything is fine. There will be also times in my life where maybe, like go down, like if I'm getting triggered with anything like this. But that's, like that's the good thing, like I think, like with the healing, you learn navigate, like these things, and then, like, how to regulate your emotions, everything. So it's not like, for example, small things brings you into depression anymore. And what is also quite interesting as well for me, just maybe mention that for me, like if I see, for example, like the partners, like from my past, I just see the broken, like boys. I don't see like this, like
Hmm.
this man anymore in front of me, because now I understand that, like it's not like everyone, like was like this, but a lot of things I'm not attracted to that anymore. And that's, like what's with my healing journey, the awareness, like why people are like this, like why people insult you to understand that a little bit more. And that's, like that's the learning curve with that. And yeah, so I think that's important, like not just to say, okay, come on the platform and go in the course. Also, like to check, was it really good for you? Can we change something? And that's, like it's very important.
Yeah, I think that is a really good point actually. It's what I think is important, that even though you come to a platform or you seek therapy or you go to somatic therapy or yoga or whatever it may be, if you are somebody that if you are not aware of yourself, if you're not aware of something that's going on within you, that modality might not work. That modality you might not respond to it very well, or you might reject it almost, I suppose, if you're not aware of how one it's making you feel or how you can be open to it, I suppose.
Mm.
I think self-awareness is a really good point, and some people may be the type of person that are like, okay, I'm broken, I need healing, you can fix me, but that other person cannot fix you. They can give you the tools, but you need to help fix yourself.
Yeah, and that's why also in therapy,
So
for
have
example, they don't give you a lot of advices. It's more like that you have to, like just for example, also like to leave an abusive relationship. A lot of therapists would not say that, like you need to leave this person. That
Mhm.
comes from self-awareness, like to see, okay, this is not good for me. This repeated pattern, like from the past, from our caregivers and so on. And then, there's something what I have to do, like that's something, like what you said now just reminded me there, and
Yeah, I think you touched on it when you said about you blah, 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 blah. You made yourself aware, or you went through that self-awareness of ex-partners. So I know you said that your dad was narcissistic. Um, I don't want to assume, but I think your partners were narcissistic, which is why instead of looking back at them, you can look at them as the child rather than
yeah, I
the
think
adult. Is that what you were saying? Sorry.
Yeah, I think yesterday I also got a lot of like, comments in Instagram. I think for me, like narcissistic personality disorder is a lot of, it's of course genetic, but it's for me more trauma related. And I think I had a lot of people in my life, they had similar trauma and it was all about abandonment. And, like that's where we were connecting with each other. And this is all happened on an unconscious level there. That's something, like where you get attracted to people like this and then where, like things happen then in relationship, like insults and like more severe, like for me, for example, what happened to me with stalking as well. And then where, for example, someone without trauma would immediately leave. If you are in this trauma mode still, like you try to rectify their behavior and say, okay, yeah, they apologize, they don't mean it like this, but that's something, like what is important with the healing journey. You understand, for example, I had like an abandoned inner child in me, like when my parents left me on my own with 4 years. And I remember that I was walking in the flat on my own. This was for me normal. But this is something, like what is repeated in the relationships and especially with the breakup, this inner child comes up and this inner child would go always back to the abusive person to reconnect. But there's also other parts in you, like this
As I
protector
say,
parts, where I say like, no, I'm not gonna do this shit anymore. I'm gonna cut them off. And that's why I think this trauma bonds, are there because there's two parts of you which wants to go back, but if you understand that, and you understand yourself, and I think trauma is a lot of you don't know who you are. And that's the big point. And that's also
Mhm.
with this narcissistic personality disorder. I don't want to say, like everyone is like bad and like this. Of course, like if you have been abused, it's difficult, try to, like say something positive, but I think it's a lot of, they just don't know who they are, like it's a mask there and you just talk not with an adult, you talk with a child constantly.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. You said about inner child healing. Is that something you have experienced yourself?
I think for me it's the most efficient one. There's nothing there for complex trauma.
Oh, okay.
Somatic healing, of course, and what you mentioned with the finger is it's kind of EMDR is also effective for PTSD, but it's not like that it's more that the brain, like related to the brain, but it's not like the somatic healing there. So you need to have a lot of elements for trauma healing. It's not just to point the finger and then to say, like you are healed. But for me, the inner child healing,
Yeah.
especially with child abuse, is for me the most effective. But there's, for example, as told you as well, like I had this trauma when I was in Germany. There's one part of me that doesn't want to communicate in English, does not feel like safe and everything, you know. So something what I can't talk with my English therapist, for example, um, you know, like, but also as well, can't just with talking communicate with your inner child. You need to draw, you need to do things, you know, like what you loved as a child, to start with that in the therapy also. For example, to take like, I mean, I did not do that, but I know that from our therapist as well, like they take like toys and something like this, play, especially if you have been abused, you know, like as a child, to connect with this inner part. And for me, it's the most efficient when I had this in the therapy there. It was for me the click moment. And in this inner child therapy, you go back as an adult there in the situation and support the child. And then the child feels seen, you know, like, and then you can go back, you know, like in the present, because trauma does not know that you are, that things happen in the past. It's still, it's there now.
Yeah. It's where, because it's a feeling and an emotion and a response, I think it's so buried inside you that any trigger, your body response is the same response as it was 20, 30 years ago. So, like you say, your body doesn't really know what's going on. So, inner child healing isn't something I've actually looked into. So, I'll have a look at that. And I do think the ways you've just explained with the whole like doing what you used to do as a kid that made you happy to bring things out, maybe not necessarily that made you happy, that just things that you like would kind of replicate. Yeah, it's a really interesting concept, and I'm sure that lots of listeners would love to have that as another episode. So that, thank you for that. So back to the blending all the modalities. I know you said for you, inner child therapy was the most effective. But on Recovery Trauma Limited, you've got so many different modalities. Can you just explain a bit about the types of therapy that people can access?
So I think for me, what I want to have there, the dialectical behavior therapy, where you learn how to ground yourself, the CBT therapy, then the music therapy, art therapy, inner child therapy, and also like components of EMDR as well. And then of course like yoga, Tai Chi, you know, like all these things which are helping you, maybe also Pilates as well, you know, like where you can move your body
Mhm.
and regulate your nervous system. Yeah, I think that's the main things there. And if there's anything new out there, I will explore this as well. I'm quite open, you know, like with everything new, and I'm researching so much about trauma recovery. You can believe me that it's like I post a lot of things there which are not out there at the moment as well, you know, like where I think like also, you know, like where I explore myself, you know, like for grounding techniques and like this. So, and yeah, try to develop new things.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really important. I think it's there are so many of us that have been through some kind of trauma. And I know there are a lot of people that suffer with PTSD, and I know that it's really prevalent in the world today. But I also know that there are so many of us that also are survivors of complex PTSD. And the complex PTSD is literally that. It's a lot more complex than PTSD. And I think sometimes the PTSD the word can be thrown about like, oh yeah, I've hurt my back. Oh, I've done this. And it's like, they're not, it's not, some people don't take it as seriously when you say, oh, I've got complex PTSD.
Yeah,
So when you're going to therapy, oh, I'm sorry.
I think a lot of people don't understand that, you know, like what is PTSD, what is complex PTSD. I think it's important to explain that PTSD is a one, you know, like time you have got like a traumatic event, like car accident or something like this, or you went to the war zone, you know, like someone got killed or something like this. But the complex PTSD is like you had over a long time abuse, and that's where it's come from, you know, like it's not just one event. There are several events. And for example, for me, you know, like with my mother, you know, like this was like one event which was traumatic, which, for example, I would have not this big issues there, but I had no one there who loved me. So this is why, like you can have the most severe trauma there, and a lot of people don't develop that because they have got someone there, like they feel seen and everything there. But if you get again like traumas after traumas, it's different then, so you will develop then this complex PTSD. And that's also what Bessel van der Kolk, he said, like not everyone has got like this, like issues from the complex PTSD because they had like a secure network
The support.
support, sorry.
Yeah. No. Secure network support is they're all very, very cement things. They are things that if you go through that that part of your life, you go through something that is so bad that it affects you and it makes you feel unsafe. If you can go straight to a place of safety and recover that in the moment or close to that moment, then you're going to kind of get through it quicker, aren't you? Whereas if you go through a traumatic experience, which is feeling unsafe, and then you continue to feel unsafe, you continue to be put into situations where it's basically just digging and digging and digging, you're not going to get to be in a place where you can kind of come up to a normal level. So that's clear. That's where the PTSD and the complex PTSD differ.
Mhm. Yeah,
I think what you said there, I think it's such a personal thing to you for you to explain to us, which is amazing. And I think what you're doing with Recovery Trauma Limited is brilliant. It's going to help so many people. So obviously it can reach different time zones, different anybody can access it online. Where do you think or where do you see Recovery Trauma Limited being in 5 years' time? What's your goal?
I think the goal is for me to be the biggest trauma education platform. And the goal is for me to, I think what I mentioned before as well, for me to cut down the suicide rates. I'm not a Silicon Valley company, like where I overcharge people. I want to help other people and provide like trauma awareness. And that's for me the main goal, and I'm working very, very hard on this. I think it's for me like a life mission, like where you think, okay, you had all this trauma in your life. What do you do, like now, like what is the best, like what you can evolve from this, like and the positive outcome, like from all this pain what I endured. And I had very, very hard times in my life, and I'm just got reminded now also, like because when we spoke about this as well, like that, for example, with my traumatic event, like we moved back in the house where my mother has been murdered, for example. It was now, like I was thinking about this as well because I was constantly feeling not safe in my life. And now that's the time now for me. I feel finally, like I know who I am. I know my boundaries. I know what is good for healing. And I will bring that really back, like and help other people with that. And of course, we don't like or of course need to earn some money from this. That's clear, like and but for me the
Mhm.
main thing is really, really to help other people because I did not know, like what was going on. And there's so many people out there, like they think, my God, like why I feel like this. I can't live with that anymore. And so for me, that's the big, like statement. And I want to, like help other people who can't afford that. So I also will work with charities with the NHS to get free therapy as well, because I think that's
Yeah,
possible in UK. And then work with other countries around the world. I've got a big network at the moment with therapists around the world, and I've got a lot of also like celebrities writing me on the platform. And yeah, I think like
brilliant.
will be a nice healing journey. Looking forward.
That's amazing. And do you know what? I have every belief that this is going to happen. I have every belief that Recovery Trauma Limited will be one of the biggest, one of the most accessible, and one of the most helpful and educational platforms there will be out there. And I myself literally came across your Instagram page, and the content is so relatable, and even the pictures, the wording. I think for me personally, it was especially the pictures, because they're quite cartoony. It's not even a word, but
Yeah, cartoon.
they're like imagery, aren't they? Yeah. So I just related to them so much. And obviously then I reached out to you. And when I went through your platform and seen all the different things that you've got available, it just blew my mind. So this is your early days. So this is Recovery Trauma Limited in its infancy. So I cannot wait to see it in 5 years' time. And I'm blessed that I'm currently on this journey with you. So it's amazing. I said to you earlier, I'm going to ask you a question, and this is going to be my signature, if I can say it rightly, signature question. So, at some point in our lives, we have stepped onto the trauma train. And even if we didn't know at the time that it was the trauma train, take a breath and picture the earlier version of yourself. And when you know, because I think in your circumstance, it's a bit different because you were so young and you've had so many different things go on. I think of yourself when you first boarded the trauma train on your healing journey. If you could sit next to yourself or sit next to that version of yourself, what would you say to her now?
Get emotional. It was not your fault. You forgiveness is for yourself, and before you can forgive, you have to release the anger. This I would say to myself.
That's powerful, That's really, really powerful. I'm getting emotional now. Yeah, it's a big thing to think of yourself on the first part of your journey and where you are now. So thank you for that. That's truly, truly beautiful. I am absolutely blessed that you have been so open and honest with us today. And I am in awe of everything that you're doing. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. For anybody that does want to reach out to you, or anybody that wants to find your platform, how can they find you? What's your contact details?
I think the best is on Instagram at the moment for Recovery Trauma Ltd. Yeah, so if they just can send me a DM. And I'm still building up the
Cool.
platform, like the website. Yeah. But
Okay,
for
so
me,
that's
it's the,
at Recovery Trauma LT.
yeah, for me, the important thing is I don't want to rush with anything. I want to have a safe space. That's for me important. So with the website, with the courses, and especially with trauma recovery, you need to be sensitive, like you have to have emergency as well, like people, like don't feel well and anything. So I want to build it up in a good way, secure.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, it's also it's a safe space. Same as this podcast, it's a safe space and it's judgment free. But people also need to be self aware, because there are many, many triggers when we start talking, and there are many things that we open up about that people may find disturbing or may cause flashbacks or something. So it's the same as if you go and look for therapy, isn't it? If you're feeling actually a bit anxious because actually you're in a low point and you're seeking therapy, something else might then trigger you again. So I think you're absolutely right in the fact that people need to be in a safe space when they do it. Okay, so thank you so much, Jana, for
Thank you.
coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. I would just like to say to everybody, if you have any questions, any comments, then obviously you can either contact me or DM Jana. And please remember to subscribe, like, and share. I'm not very good at this, but subscribe, like, and share. And if you want any contact with me, you can contact me on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok, and that's Riding the Trauma Train. So until next time, thank you all so very much. Thank you so much for joining me today on Riding the Trauma Train. I'm Lydia, and I feel privileged to share this space with you. No matter where you are on this train right now, whether it's in survival mode, slowly finding your feet in recovery, or maybe it's somewhere in between, remember, you are not alone in what you're feeling, and you do not have to travel this journey by yourself. So if you'd like to continue traveling together, please follow Riding the Trauma Train wherever you're listening so you can join us at the next stop. Until next time, take care.